Tonight on Town Meeting.
Who was that masked man anyhow?
I don't know, and I wanted to thank him.
Meet the legendary man behind the commercials we love to watch.
Hey, hungry. What kind of soup is that?
Make way for the great American soup.
Can you give me that again?
Up at the Ritz, they passed the word to 42nd Street.
I'll warn you in advance. I'm not going to like your prune.
Black is beautiful. For a colonial house?
Stan Freberg shares his secrets of commercial success tonight on Town Meeting.
Just one of a multitude of...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Stan Freberg.
Am I supposed to sit down here?
Have a seat, make yourself comfortable. I think you're among friends.
Well, when I first saw this layout, I was going to say, nice being here at the Nuremberg trials. But,
Are you impugning our set?
no. No, it's just that I'm not usually on the hot seat like this.
Oh, this isn't a hot seat.
No, I know it isn't.
You know...
How are you? I remember that beard. I think I met him somewhere before.
Off and running.
Did you mug me one time in New Jersey? I'm sorry.
Hold on. If we look at some of the commercials that are on today, and some of them are perhaps more entertaining than the programs they interrupt. And we look at you...
Don't mind me saying so.
But the ones that are, you have to take a lion's share of the credit for having those available to us today. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Well, I don't know. David Hartman said earlier this year when I was on Good Morning America that I was the first man to legitimize the use of humor in advertising, I guess. And what he really meant was I was the first guy that proved that it worked financially, which is the bottom line. You know, nobody ever hires you to do funny commercials because they think you're funny. Believe me, that's the last thing that occurs to them. It's only if you make the product go up or you get more distribution or something. I mean, the sales curve go up.
What got you into it? What prompted you to start looking at commercials in a different way, shall we say?
Well, most of the kids that I talk to in colleges around the country, I asked them why they think I went into advertising, and they always assume it was for the money, you know, or for some other extraneous reason. And the thought that I might have been motivated to go into the business as an outraged consumer, you know, rarely occurs to them. I sat there, just like all Americans, in front of my television set for years, maddened at the ineptness of advertisers and their clumsy attempts, you might say, to communicate. I figured there must be a better way to reach me. And so I thought if I ever had the opportunity to do commercials, I would try to create commercials the way I would want somebody else to create them for me. And so then I had the opportunity. The Continental tomato paste came to me, the company came to me in 1956 and asked me to help them with their tomato paste that had been buried by the Giant Hunts Company. And so I gave them a line.
Don't give us the line.
Don't give us the line?
I want to. Can somebody here sing that quick line for us? Anybody here remember that line? Because I can. But you don't want to hear me sing. Trust me. Come on, you must know it.
All I remember is a wonderful.
Oh, that was the Lawrence Welk record that I did.
Who put 8 great tomatoes in that itty-bitty can?
Yeah, that's right. Anyhow, so in 3 months, why the Hunts Company had cut their price twice, and in the end, Continental triumphed, and they were finally sold to Carnation Foods. But overnight, I was declared some kind of a problem solver in advertising, whether I wanted to be or not. So I just kept on going, you know.
And had a lot of fun with it along the way.
Yeah. Well, it's really is a challenge to continue to prove that advertising does not necessarily have to be dull or boring or irritating in order to communicate with people and sell the product, you know. Madison Avenue for years has treated us all like we were a bunch of morons, you know. But,
quick thoughts on television commercials from some of you folks. Who's got a quick... Go ahead.
Quick question.
Yes.
Some advertising seems so stupid that it's got to be calculated. Do they make ads intentionally stupid to attract your attention on occasion?
It would certainly seem that way, wouldn't it? I'm not sure that they actually do. The big mistake that most guys make on Madison Avenue is they rarely create advertising the way they would want someone to create it for them. They always act as though, well, I don't like it, but that's what they would like to hear. Who is they? They is us, baby, right? We is them.
How about you? Let's get you on the spot here. Just what do you think about television commercials in general?
Lately, many of them try to be funny, but they're not. They appear to be going through a process where they're trying to appeal to our sense of humor, but they don't pull it off.
How about you?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the old Volkswagen commercials I thought were extremely humorous, and I think that was about the same time Mr. Freberg was coming on in the commercial scene.
Yes.
Maybe he could comment on that.
Right. The Volkswagen spots were, by and large, very great, and I admired them a lot. They were mostly the work of William Birnbach, of Doyle Dane Birnbach. Actually, I preceded Birnbach by about 4 years, but that doesn't matter. He came along in about 1960. I started in 1956 in advertising, and I thought the stuff he did for Volkswagen was brilliant. It was exactly right. In other words, they made this ugly car, right? So instead of trying to sell it like General Motors would try to sell it, you know, one of the early ads said underneath the Volkswagen, "We also make an ugly truck." And but the definitive one was the original Volkswagen ad that just had one word under it, under the car. It said lemon. And they went on from there.
We're going to take a look. Set us up for this, would you?
Yes.
Ann Miller.
Right.
And Campbell's Soups. You went to enormous lengths to put a lot of production and talent into that 60-second commercial. Set that up for us briefly before we look at it.
Well, they had this new soup that they were bringing out called the Great American Soup. And I don't want to embarrass you, sir, but it actually was the Heinz Company.
Oh.
Well, that's all right. That's all right, Ken.
I remember Ann Miller.
We're going to give you one more chance next week. We'll give you a chance to come back next week.
Okay.
Now, anyhow, they said we want to do something really dazzling, and so we were going through a nostalgia era where people are trying to remember the great old Busby Berkeley musicals and so forth, and I said, that's what we'll do. This will be a tribute to the golden age of Hollywood and musicals, and I got Hermes Pan to choreograph it, who had choreographed all of Fred Astaire's pictures, and I used Fred Konekamp, a cinematographer who had shot Patton and The Towering Inferno. All these great cameramen and people in the Hollywood studios are available. You know, why not hire them? That's always been my theory. I've tried to get the best people I could. Anyhow, I got the great Ann Miller and 21 dancers. You going to play it now after all this?
I was going to say, let's take a look at the result of what we've been talking about.
Boy, am I hungry. What kind of soup is that?
Make way for the Great American Soup.
Can you give me that again?
Up at the Ritz, they pass the word to 42nd Street. Make way for the Great American Soup. Hey, mister, have you tried the soup that's good enough to eat? Shake hands with the Great American Soup. Feel that rhythm, guide your feet on the soupy road to romance. Let's face the chicken gumbo and dance. Who's got its noodles up in life from Broadway to the Loop? It's the Great. I said the Great. It's the great, great, great American Soup.
Emily, why do you always have to make such a big production out of everything?
All right.
Thank you.
What was it you liked about that?
What was it I liked about it? Gosh, it was a funny commercial. Bringing Ann Miller back, the tap dancing. I'm not a comedian, so I don't know what the elements are exactly that made it funny. And the punchline at the end was like a 60-second joke, and it worked.
How about you? Would you sit there if you were sitting at home watching a television show and that commercial came on? Would you sit there and watch it, or would you get up and go get some more potato chips or something?
Get some more potato chips.
Right.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, you always get the great answer from kids, you know.
Stan, I think the basic problem with humor today, and even that commercial, is what Ken said a few minutes ago when he said Heinz.
No, I said Campbell's. It turns out you're still getting confused.
Oh, I'm confused, but my confusion is well organized.
Actually, it didn't matter who was the parent company, I must say, because this was a subsidiary line that it just happened to be owned by H.J. Heinz, a line of soups they were bringing out called the Great American Soups.
Well, you've got to have a couple of interesting stories that came out of that shooting that spot. Some humorous anecdotes or problems or whatever. What's it like doing something?
Well,
like that?
it was terrific. I mean, I really loved shooting it. The thing that comes to mind is the way those doors closed there. You know, there were these huge doors, and they were running on tracks. And if Ann Miller hadn't timed herself, she's such a brilliant performer that she had it timed exactly. But if she'd been off slightly, you know, the doors would have made her into a bookmark. So I said to the special effects guys, can you stop that thing, you know, if you want to? And they said, not once she gets rolling, Mr. Freberg. You just let her go like a locomotive, you know. So then I thought, well, shall I tell this to Ann Miller or to psych her out, you know? So I said to her, here's what I said. I said, listen, Annie, you're not worried about those doors accidentally kind of tapping you there, are you? She says, oh, honey, these Hollywood special effects guys are so terrific. They could stop that on a dime if they wanted to. So I just prayed a little and let it go, you know. And fortunately, you know, she...
How long did it take you to shoot that?
3 days.
3 8-hour days, 12-hour days?
No, actually, we rehearsed the full day we just didn't roll any film, but we had 3 cameras and Fred Konekamp and all these lights, every light on the Goldwyn lot, and 21,000 square feet of marlite on the floor, and the dancing waters, about 2,000 jets of water going on.
Oh, it's a
classic. And then we shot for 2 days, yeah.
What did it cost?
At that time, it cost $154,000.
And that was in
That's cheap now, you know.
Yeah.
So it's expensive then. What was the return on the investment?
Very good. I mean, people all over America knew instantly that soup was there, and that was the whole idea, is to make it visible. Some commercials are designed to do different things, but this commercial was designed to make it instantly visible in the marketplace, which it did.
And appealing.
Yes.
In a moment, we'll come back and see a Freberg commercial that increased sales by 400% for the advertisers. Stay with us.
They're still rather badly wrinkled, you know.
Town meeting, special guest again this evening, Stan Freberg. You were kind of the angry, I don't mean to imply that you're old now, but you were the angry young man of your day.
Yes, you do mean to imply that.
Well, you're older.
Older, yes.
You were the angry young man.
I was the angry young man. Is that what you're going to say of advertising?
Right.
That could very, very well be, yes.
I'm
the angry middle-aged man of advertising.
How did that cloak fit you? Was it a comfortable mantle that they placed on you, or?
I don't know. I never think about mantles, you know. I mean, I just, like Satchel Paige said, you know, don't look back, man. Something might be gaining on you. You know, I just keep moving ahead, doing what I do. I never think about stuff like that.
One of the things, and we talked about this briefly before, you've been quoted quite often as saying that advertising people take themselves too seriously. And you like to remind them that they are not selling pieces of the Holy Grail.
Right.
I'm just curious how you would market the Holy Grail, were it to come up.
I wouldn't market it at all, actually. No, leave the Holy Grail alone. My dad is a Baptist minister, you know, so I mean, I have a little input in that area. Although I did do commercials for the Presbyterians, for the National Council of Churches. And I was happy to do that as a Christian and as a son of a preacher's kid. But look, not selling pieces of the Holy Grail is what I have to remind clients of all the time. They take themselves very seriously at places like General Motors, you know. You know, General Motors, I mean, that is about the most serious place that I can imagine. They've been my client on and off over the years. Ralph Nader said they were the fifth largest, the fifth country in the world in terms of, you know, economic stability and so forth, financial position. But during the racially torn late 60s, I told an executive, high executive at General Motors, I said, you people don't have to worry about race riots here at General Motors. He said, why is that? I said, well, if an angry mob rushes the General Motors building, you can just go up on the roof and pour molten gold on them. But the Holy Grail, the pieces of the Holy Grail was the line that I gave to the Sunsweet Prune Company, actually. I said to them, look, you're not selling pieces of the Holy Grail here. It's just a pitted prune. Don't take yourself so seriously.
Oh, this is a fortuitous comment that you've just made because it can lead us in quite nicely. Great segue here, isn't that?
Great segue.
Great segue. Let's look at the, we made mention before of a product that Mr. Freberg took hold of and increased its sales by 400%. Let's look at the commercial that did that.
I'll warn you in advance, I'm not going to like your prune.
I see. And why do you say that?
I say that for a very simple reason. I don't like prunes.
Mm-hmm. And why?
For one thing, prunes are wrinkled, and I don't like wrinkled fruit.
You don't?
No, I don't like wrinkled fruit at all. And then there's the matter of the pits. Disgusting.
Yes.
Well, what do you do with a prune pit once it's in your mouth? There's no way of getting rid of a prune pit gracefully.
I agree. That's why Sunsweet has developed this brand new pitted prune, you see? No pits.
What do you mean, no pits?
I mean no pits. Go ahead, try one.
Oh, well, yes, may as well get it over. No pits.
No pits.
How do they do that?
They do it.
Well, they're very sweet and moist.
Yes. Has Sunsweet managed to change your mind with their brand new pitted prune?
Possibly. They're still rather badly wrinkled, you know.
Today, the pits. Tomorrow, the wrinkles. Sunsweet marches on.
I was wondering how you feel about all the new baby boomers music that they're using in advertising now.
I sort of wish it would go away now. This little baby boomers music. There's an absolute obsession on Madison Avenue with baby boomers and the so-called yuppie group and all that. And I imagine you fall into that group, do you not? Yeah, don't you hate that term, yuppie? Yeah, I have a 29-year-old daughter who really hates the term yuppie.
Who has a strong, compelling urge to go out and buy some prunes right now? Anyone?
Prunes have always been my favorite food.
Prunes are, yeah. But you know, it was hard for the Sunsweet prune people to face up to doing that kind of advertising. When I came on the scene in San Jose, California, they had been telling housewives how to take the pit out of a prune and put a blanched almond in. And I had to tell them, listen. You got to work backwards from reality, I told them. You know, we're a long ways from prune hors d'oeuvres, you know. And
it's been said that you know you're on the right track if your client turns white when you
yes, I have said that there's two things that I look for that show me that I'm on the right track, and it's going to be a great campaign. One is if 17 account executives show up on the set and try to get me to change something, I know I must be doing something right. And secondly, if all the blood drains out of the client's face, hey, that's it.
Hi. I have some videotape, I have to admit, from daytime television that's about 1.5 years old, and they are still showing the same commercials. How does the advertising group decide to cut it off? How much do they feel they have to have in return in order to say, okay, that commercial paid for itself, or how do they decide?
I would say that when enough people like yourself wrote letters to that company, right to the chairman of the board, those people tremble the easiest. The president, at least, and forget the advertising agency, they're just paid robots, you know. Just write to the chairman of the board of General Foods, or what's the name of the product?
No. Well, he asked.
No, I mean, hey,
go ahead.
It's all right.
He'll tell you who to write to.
Sure. Which one is it, ladies, where they pass the cake
like
down
that?
the table
They've
and the
been
one where
playing
the
this
guy
thing for a
goes
year and a
fishing
half, and the woman can't even remember the name of the product, right?
The lady here saying Duncan Hines.
Duncan Hines, yeah. Well,
why? I got to ask you why you recorded your commercials.
Because I'm at work all day. I'm recording my soap opera.
No.
I thought maybe you were a commercial fanatic.
He doesn't want to miss any commercials.
Well, that's a good point that she's brought up, and I'm ready for the son of Mikey Likes It. I mean, that's been on a dozen years.
Yeah. The people that continue to purvey that stuff are out of tune with reality. I mean, you have to understand that. They really don't know, and they live inside boardrooms and places like that. And when they get enough mail, you know, listen, a postcard can tremble General Foods if it's sent to the right place, you know.
You indicated you started your commercial career in 1956.
Yes.
A few more people, hopefully millions, would remember that you had a number of hit recordings like St. George and the Dragonette in 1953. And if you want to creep back a little later,
yes,
you would remember the Time for Beanie program, which was the local program, not the animated version that's out now, but a live television program in Los Angeles for about 3 years that you did with Dawes Butler.
Yes.
Now, my question is, of all of these different things that you have done, which have you enjoyed the most?
This program ranks right up there, though. Right?
I have to say probably that I enjoyed working in the medium of sound the most because radio and records are really a form of radio to me. Radio was always dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. And if you want to play that radio spot, this would be a good time to play that.
We can jump ahead?
If you want, or you want to save that till later?
Well, let's find out, first of all, if we're queued up. Hey, we're handling this as we go along, you know?
I like this. This is free association,
Free
right?
association.
Well,
of course, our
I mean,
back there going, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, I did a radio commercial once.
Okay, we got it.
You got it? Okay, this is a radio commercial I did for the Radio Advertising Bureau, and it sort of comes down hard on the medium of television, but hey, you know.
Okay, let's go for it.
Radio? Why should I advertise on radio? There's nothing to look at, no pictures.
Listen, you can do things on radio you couldn't possibly do on TV.
That'll be the day.
All right, watch this. Okay, people, and now when I give you the cue, I want the 700-foot mountain of whipped cream to roll into Lake Michigan, which has been drained and filled with hot chocolate. Then the Royal Canadian Air Force will fly overhead towing a 10-ton maraschino cherry, which will be dropped into the whipped cream to the cheering of 25,000 extras. All right, cue the mountain. Cue the Air Force. Cue the maraschino cherry. Okay, 25,000 cheering extras. Now, you want to try that on television?
Well...
You see, radio is a very special medium because it stretches the imagination.
Doesn't television stretch the imagination?
Up to 21 inches, yes.
You know, when I made that commercial, we didn't have multi-track recording, so, you know, it'd be easy to do now on a 24-track machine, but what we had to do was line up 8 Ampex machines, and the dialogue is in the first one, the Mountain Creek is in this one, the Royal Canadian Air Force, and this whistle of the bomb, and so forth. The reason I had to do it that way is because I wanted the sounds to overlap. So I would run alongside the engineer, tapping him on the shoulder when I wanted him to hit the start button. And the 4th machine, he would blow it, and we'd have to back everything up to the white leaders. Anyhow, all the 7th machines were feeding into the 8th Ampex. The take that you heard was take 72.
Uh-oh. I see, now on television, we get everything right the first time.
Oh, I know that.
Stan, I've heard you and other producers say several times that you've surprised advertisers with funny commercials or funny concepts. Did advertisers ever come to you and say, I want a funny commercial, or I want this kind of funny commercial?
Well, once I was more or less established as a kind of problem solver and a guy that could cause sales curves to react favorably from humor, that's what they did say. They came to me and asked for funny advertising, but they never stopped telling you what they want you to do and trying to lean heavily on your jokes. But I have a clause in my contract that says that Mr. Freberg is willing to discuss all reasonable changes for legal reasons or whatever, but the decision as to what is or what is not funny shall rest with Mr. Freberg. I actually have that in there. That makes lawyers very nervous, that language. They say, it's so unlegal, you know.
during the 60s, I guess as a response to you, there was a lot of humor in advertising, and then it went out of fashion. Humor in advertising just went down the tubes, and I was in the printing business and associated with advertising a little bit, and it seemed like everybody was saying thumbs down to humor. Where were you during that period, number one? And number two, was that a reflection of our national mood during the 60s where we just lost our humor overall?
I don't know. I was there, man. I just kept doing my thing. I don't know. There are times that things are slow as far as doing humorous campaigns. Other times you're doing more. But there was a period where we seemed to have lost our sense of humor. What happened was that in the 60s, in the early 60s, after I had made the world safe for canned chow mein and some legacy, right, and pitted prunes through the use of humor, why a lot of creative people got let out of the closet. Unfortunately, a lot of bad creative people got let out of the closet along with the good people. And on Madison Avenue, they couldn't tell the difference. If they had a beard, they must be creative. That's the first thing they judged them by. And you see, man has a beard right here. And so I know you're very, very creative. But so they couldn't tell the difference. All the beards and long hairs and strange clothes headbands, looked alike to General Foods. And so we had a lot of very bad creative work being done by people who yesterday they were a CPA, and starting today they think they're going to be a humorist or something.
Jingle writers. All right, I'll tell you what, when we come back, we're going to take a look at $1 million commercial, only aired once on network television. Stay with us. Back on Super Bowl Sunday, 1984, Apple Computers aired this next commercial, and it is the only time they aired it. Now, this commercial received a lot of acclaim from within the industry. Let's us take a look at it, and when we come back, we'll talk about what people's views are on it. Let's take a look at that.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests of a contradictory thoughts. Our unification of the laws is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
All right. That commercial cost $1 million to produce. A lot of time, energy, obviously money went into making that. Your quick reaction first.
Well, obviously it's a great piece of film, and I think it's a great commercial. I really question the wisdom of putting it on for one day. I mean, after the joke is over, it's not really a joke. I mean, after you get all the press out of it, what have you got left? That'd be like supposing Steven Spielberg said, I'm going to make this picture called Back to the Future, but we're only going to release it for one day. You only have one day to see it. After that, sorry. You know, what if you were in the bathroom when that commercial came on? I mean, too bad for you, Charlie, right? I don't think that's such a great business strategy to only run that once. And you'll notice that the Apple company is not doing all that well at the moment.
Okay. You were sitting there, I couldn't help but noticing. You were sitting there watching that and kind of nodding your head, and what were your thoughts on it?
Well, what went through my mind was I saw the new version of 1984, and it looked like they used your sets or the sets for that commercial at any rate to do that commercial. But my question was, were you ever in a situation where you went to the client with what you felt was an excellent idea, and were just flatly turned down and were not allowed to do it at all?
Airlines?
No. Only twice in my career did that happen. One was, and neither of them had anything to do with the creative thrust of the thing. In other words, it wasn't that the man didn't think it was funny, the company didn't like what I did. In one instance, there was a man named Filbert. He had a company called Mrs. Filbert's Mayonnaise and Margarine. It was his mother. and he hired me to do a funny campaign, and obviously I made fun of that name. It's a kind of ridiculous name. And he finally held his hands, his head in his hands as he told me this. I just can't do this to the memory of my mother. Well, what did he hire me for in the first place? All right. The other time was the Renault Automobile Company. I wanted them to take on Detroit head on, and the man who was the president of Renault France said that we have not got the guts to do this, Mr.
It seems that commercials seldom use actors who have mustaches and goatees. What is your opinion?
Can we have
Are
a
you
shot
looking
of this
for a
man?
job?
Can we have
Yeah.
a shot of this man on the screen? I'll use you starting tomorrow, sir. If I can just figure out something, I'll work backward from your goatee and see if I can figure out something to do.
Anybody else got any feelings on that? I'd like to continue on with this Apple computer commercial that we just saw, too.
To me, there's political overtones there, too close to reality to be comfortable. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Well, it may be that has a place in a movie, you know, where you're making a political statement of some kind over an hour and a half, and it doesn't belong in a commercial. It was a dazzling, you know, I've often said that a lot of business people in the business end of advertising, they had the idea I was some wild maverick guy that was not tuned into reality. The reality of advertising is it has to move the product. I happen to have won 21 Clios. Okay, that's the Clio is like the Oscar, the advertising vendor. But so what if those same campaigns that won the Clios hadn't all been helped the sales curves of companies go upward to get wider distribution or to get even a friendlier image of the company involved, so that a dazzling creative effect in a commercial doesn't mean anything if it doesn't work at the point of sale.
Okay.
It doesn't even...
Question. Are there any commercials that you have turned down, or products or whatever?
Yes, I turned down cigarette companies. I was turning them down before it became fashionable to do so, and I turned down, thank you. Turned down Marlboro and a lot of different companies. I also turned down Forest Lawn about 3 times.
All right,
it's true. It's true. I also turned down Hubert Humphrey also.
We'll talk about that in a moment.
You have to go to a commercial.
We got to go to a commercial.
Is
We're
this a
gonna
real
come back,
commercial?
But before we... Okay, town meeting special guest again, Stan Freberg. Go ahead, sir. You had a question.
Yes, Stan, do you have any suggestions for talent to get in to see the creative art directors or directresses?
Yes, well, with that beard, sir, I wouldn't think you'd have any problems at all. No, I mean, it's great. But don't go into to try to get the role of Santa Claus. I mean, I think that tell me you're applying for the job of presidential candidate of the United States or something.
Yeah, we had some literature that told us to ask questions about commercials that were somewhat dumb or offensive that we didn't want to see, or
yes,
you know. And one of my pet peeves is these commercials. This is going to be kind of embarrassing, but the commercials were like 2 ladies running into each other, you know, in a restaurant, and out of her purse falls, you know, a package of, you know, feminine hygiene products,
yes,
something like that. You know, that I just don't think that happens in everyday life, and I want to know. Is that right? Or the one.
See, I don't know. I see that happen all the time in the supermarket. What are you talking about?
How about women? That is, how do women feel about that?
They hate it. Were you kidding? Women hate that. They have all kind of research that shows them that women hate that stuff, and they still continue to run it.
Why?
Don't ask me, because they're really stupid.
I remember working in Syracuse, and the department chairman had a lot of this free information sent in the Censors Board, sent out, you know, publicity, and it said that in 1970 they were going to start putting out feminine products, because until then it had been censored, and then they gave an okay, and ever since then you've been seeing the feminine product.
There's only one other commercial that I'd like to see obliterated. Beyond that, it's the one where the man is in the little rowboat in the toilet bowl. The only way that that we could improve on that spot would be if a hand, preferably mine, came in and flushed him down the toilet. You know.
All right, let's look at a series of commercials that you did have a hand in.
Yes.
Hey, come on, I'm always looking for segues, right? Come on. Let's take a look at these Ballantine
I
beer
better
ads.
explain it first what happened there.
Okay.
Just quickly. The Ballantine Beer Company in New York came to me, and it happened that it's a true story. The two brothers that ran the brewery, one guy changed the formula, and the other guy tampered with the label at the same time. Okay, so some new owners, and the beer sales went almost down the drain, you know. So the brothers got ousted, and a new ownership came in, and they hired a new president, and the first thing he did is to hire me. So all the blood drained out of their faces when I told the board of directors, well, just tell the people the truth. You know, you can talk to them. People are adults. You can tell them what happened, and they will love you for being candid. But one of the things I do is to give clients perhaps a little more honesty than they had in mind. So I created a fictitious character named Herman Ballantine, who claimed that when he went to Europe, his wife's brothers did this thing, but the things that were done were just the same. This is with actual commercials. And one more thing, sir. This is the first and only mini-series of commercials that ever ran. Each commercial played 1 week and went off forever, and then another week, the next episode ran.
Okay, here we go.
So while I'm vacationing in Europe, I leave the beer company in the hands of my two relatives, okay? No sooner am I on the steamship. Haven't even got the cellophane off the fruit! When one relative changes the classic label with the 3 rings, while the other one decides to do me a favor, and fool with the Ballantine beer formula, which has only been good enough since 1840, that's all.
Yes, well, what...
Did you tell anybody, least of all me, Herman Ballantine? Did they say, hurry home, Herman, your relatives have lost up the beer? Oh, no, no.
How did all this tampering affect the sales? You've reinstated the original formula?
Are you kidding? Since I first discovered it back in 1965. But a lot of people, meanwhile, have switched to other beers, so...
I'm sorry, Mr. Ballantine. We'll have to stop now.
But that's not the end of my story.
Yes, well, the hour's up. We'll have to continue tomorrow.
How could I lie here a couple minutes? I don't feel so good.
There's something I can do for you?
You can move your thumb a little if you don't mind.
Sorry.
Next commercial, why?
When did you first discover the change?
One sip at my homecoming party, the cat was out of the bag. Some sweet surprise for Herman Ballantine, huh? Like a knife through the heart. Aren't you even going to ask me how bad the beer tasted?
All right. How bad?
Don't ask.
But since the only Ballantine beer you can buy anywhere is the original formula again, sales must have improved. Yes. Well, we'll pick up again tomorrow. I can see you still got a lot of this bottled up.
Got a lot of it in cans, too. I've just learned a great lesson. It's given me a quiet, metaphysical philosophy.
And what is that?
You don't turn breweries over to relatives. That's what I learned!
You fired your relatives, I suppose?
No, I keep them around for my wife's sake. Give them odd jobs to do, like putting the labels on bottles.
The hour isn't up, Mr. Don't you think perhaps if you just told people what happened, how you restored the original Ballantine flavor again? I mean, just level with them.
Ha! You think anybody would really believe what happened? It's too incredible.
But it's the truth.
You know it's the truth, and I know it's the truth, but...
I'm sorry, Mr. Ballantine. We'll have to stop now.
What?
All right, Mr. Ballantine.
Good evening once again. My lovely wife, my 2 children, my Cocker Spaniel. You're not going to believe this, but in 1965, I went to Europe. Doctor told me I should take a rest. Unbeknownst to me, certain relatives on my wife's side decided to horse around with a solid gold beer formula, which was only good enough in 1840, that's all. By the time I discovered what happened, thousands of Ballantine customers switched to other beers. What can I tell you? Long since I changed the beer back. It's the old Ballantine magic again. But how can people know that if they don't try it? Don't talk while Daddy's talking.
Herman, don't excite yourself. I've been thinking. If worse comes to worse, we can always go into the pretzel business. Look, you've already got a pretzel on the label.
All these years you thought that was a pretzel on there? Here, tell your mother, what is that on Daddy's label?
Above or below the pretzel?
Okay.
A great series.
Thank you.
Really.
The greatest triumph for me was that I actually got the beer company to put out the beer that week with upside-down labels on it all over the East Coast, and of course the sales went up dramatically. And so.
What was your reaction?
I think that was a good reaction. I like to commend Mr. Freberg on using regular people, because the mannequin look seems to be really boring. I mean, you can see a whole stage of people here, and they don't look like mannequins.
No, thank you.
I've done radio before and things like that, and it's funny, and it's good to know that maybe there's a chance that a regular person can get a shot, that they don't have to look 6'4" and that type of thing.
How hard was it to convince Ballantyne to do that? Tough sell?
Sort of. I don't know. You wait for the blood to come back into their faces, and. Usually, one of the interesting things is I used to get hired by both advertising agencies and or clients at the 11th hour. And they hired me in the 11th hour. It was like, we've tried everything else. We might as well try Freberg, because they're going down for the third time,
So bring you in to save the
There's
ship.
not much time. That works in my favor. An agency or a client will kill a whole series of commercials because they hate them, has been produced by some big agency, and they call me in the 11th hour, and meanwhile they got millions of dollars worth of airtime bought that I have to now fill.
Okay.
So anyhow, yeah.
We got to go away for a minute. When we come back, we'll hear more about the early days of Stan Freberg. Stay with us. All right, town meeting, right off the top, Stan Freberg, special guest. Person at home wants to get in on the discussion. Go ahead, you're on town meeting.
Hi, Stan. I am a fan of yours, and one of the things I have is a couple copies of your record, Green Christmas. How do you contrast Green Christmas and the devastating attack on advertising with the business you're in now?
Ooh, thank you.
I don't see any conflict there. I mean, I did that as a kind of a morality lesson for Madison Avenue, the record, and I didn't make very much profit out of that record. By the way, I gave my royalties to the Hemophilia Foundation of Southern California, and I think the fact that I was an advertising person working in the field meant that I could do that record with authority.
For
I don't
those
see any conflict.
who are unaware of Green Christmas, it's a blistering attack on Madison Avenue for or against the commercialization of the Christmas season.
Lately on TV, there's been a lot of commercials about cats and dogs selling, cat food, and they're trying to act cute, but they're really terrible. Now, what's your reaction on this kind of thing?
Well, actually, I love pets, but it would be okay with me if I never saw another cat food commercial or dog food. I have this theory about advertising. If they stopped advertising overnight, if Procter & Gamble stopped advertising soap, do you think anybody'd be any dirtier? I think that sooner or later you'd figure out which cat food the cats walked away from and which one they ate without any help from Madison Avenue. People could...
One of the people from your checkered past, Stanley Kramer.
Stanley
You worked
Kramer.
with Stanley Kramer.
My friend Stanley Kramer, who lives now here in Seattle and writes for the Seattle Times and so forth. The movie producer, director, has done such great pictures over the years. Anyhow, I had the pleasure of doing about 3 campaigns for Stanley Kramer, and A Ship of Fools, and Bless the Beasts and Children. But in Mad, 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 Mad World, I gave him the line, funnier than Cleopatra. Was at the time, Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton had just done this $25 million debacle, and so anyhow, I gave him the line, funnier than Cleopatra. But I have a commercial I'd like to play for Stanley Kramer, I hope he's watching, that I did for the Banquet Frozen Food Company. It was a travesty on every motion picture trailer or preview of coming attraction that you ever saw. Can we run that?
Yeah, we'll take a look at it right now.
Now, from Banquet comes...
What is it, Cynthia? What is it?
Giblet gravy and sliced turkey.
Yes, giblet gravy, and sliced turkey, together in the most significant frozen dish of our time, buffet supper.
Winner of 3 Banquet Academy Awards. Best sliced turkey.
Best performance by a giblet gravy in a supporting role.
Best performance by a housewife.
I just put it in the oven, and by and by it was done. And I had a delicious buffet supper. Oh, yes, I did. Slices of turkey, all covered with gravy and little bitty giblets. Do you hear me?
From the same producers who brought you Beef Stew,
Salisbury steak with gravy,
and the unforgettable chicken and dumplings, comes the outstanding banquet production of the 20th century, giblet gravy and sliced turkey.
Color by Paprika, now appearing citywide in a frozen food section near you.
As is often the case, we are just about out of time.
Can we run
had
this
another hour.
commercial I did for the Prince Spaghetti Company?
I don't.
That
If
made
we
Prince the
run a
rock
commercial
star.
for the Prince Spaghetti Company, I'm going to be in trouble because we are out of time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm getting thumbs down. We're
Hey,
finished.
okay. Well,
Leave us with your best and brightest comments. What can we look for you from you for?
Okay.
So something like that.
You can look for a book from me, from Random House in the spring, based on many of these funny experiences I've had in advertising and also the record world and television. So.
I got to tell you, it's been great. I really wish we had another hour here this evening.
Well, you have to have me come back, right?
We'll have you back.
Thank you.
It really has been good.